talk radio. Get ready, America, for Deadline Live with your host, Jack Blood. Deadline Live is the daily wrap-up for those too busy in the daily grind to discern and dissect the news, while the so-called mainstream media buries the truth. Jack Blood uncovers it, exposing the lies that our trusted government officials do not want us to know. And now, please welcome Jack Blood.
We are locked and loaded for 9/11 Truth and the propaganda war. Thank you for joining us, folks. Second hour of Deadline Live coming your way. It is September 9th, 2010. I'm Jack Blood, your narrator, your radio gun, reporting for the next hour. We're on the air Monday through Friday. I got a letter today. We miss you, Jack. Why can't... Well, Google Jack Blood and you'll find Kyle Hentz. I mean, you'll find... when you Google Kyle Hentz, you'll find Jack Blood. That's why he's on the show here in a minute. DeadlineLive.info, our website. All of our work is free. We make it so easy for you. You can listen on your phone. You can listen to podcasts. You can go to our Facebook, our MySpace, and just everywhere. And you can find the work that we've done now solid every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for the last 10 years. And one of the first things we were on was 9/11 Truth. And one of the first people we found in our home state of Rhode Island, where I used to live, was a guy named Kyle Hentz. He's put out since a great documentary film called 9/11 Press for Truth. It is, I think, a great precursor for some of the wider theories out there about 9/11. It's must-see TV. I'm a big fan of the film, and I don't care what anyone else says. Kyle has been on the job breaking down what's going on with the whole 9/11 situation. He's one of the very first people that did it, and I'm glad to have him on the show. We're limited on time, so without any more ado, we'll bring him on right now. Kyle, thank you for joining us.
It's always good to be with you, Jack. Thanks for having me.
I'm not kidding. I Googled you, and I came up twice on the first page, so I'm working for you out there, Kyle.
I'm not surprised. I guess some of those interviews got some traffic, huh?
That's well, and I did promote them as well, so, you know, I don't always promote my work, but I did. What are you up to now, Kyle? I know you were out working for Raw Story for quite a while, and I heard you're not with them anymore, so what's up with Kyle Hentz here 2010, September, 2 days before the anniversary of 9/11?
Well, let's see. In the past year, I did some work for Velvet Revolution, a great organization based in Bethesda, Maryland, down in D.C. area, and I worked with Greg Timberland there on some of the torture issues, trying to bring to account the lawyers behind the torture program. And then I worked up in New York City with Ted Walter and the folks looking to get an investigation going, sponsored by the city of New York. And that's still sort of moving ahead. They're focusing on the collapse of Building 7 and trying to get the city council to look at the evidence and then sponsor an investigation. So I did that for a little while. And recently I've been working on developing a special for next year, the 10th anniversary television.
Yeah.
I've got a lead into one of the major networks, and so I'm working on that.
It's like an election, isn't it? I think, Kyle, I mean, the 10th anniversary is going to be huge if we all live that long. And, we've got to get ready for it now. I mean, here we're just 2 days away from the 9th anniversary, but people like yourself, you're very smart. You're thinking ahead to the 10th anniversary, and you're going to have all your ducks in a row. And I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, we hope. I mean, I've not been as active as I had been. I at times I've run up against the wall of frustrations and burnout as one does, when you're constantly fighting the machine. And
tell me about it.
Yeah, and but I've pressed forward on a couple fronts and working quietly. And then, of all things, I'm out at a wedding in California. One of my dear old friends and her sister, I had forgotten, is in production. And she wanted to see my film. She looked at it and was super impressed. And so a conversation started. And believe it or not, you're right. There are already meetings happening now to begin to put into works production for next year. You know,
where are you at now? And by the way, you mentioned the buildingwhat.org campaign, which I think is fantastic. I've told my listeners about this. You know, buying cable media is so easy, and putting an ad like this, well, it's a good test of the waters. You know, putting an ad like this on MSNBC should be a matter of rote. It shouldn't be that hard, and it should be very inexpensive. I believe for every $750 raised in New York City, which is pretty expensive above other markets, 10,000 more New Yorkers see the collapse of Building 7. Now, if you live in New York and you don't know that Building 7 collapsed, I mean, you've got other problems. But this could be a great national campaign, and I love it because all this, you know, we need a new investigation and pleading with our selected officials to do something about this hasn't been very fruitful, I guess we can say. The referendum failed, and this is something that goes right to the court of public opinion, which is so important, especially with all this Muslim baiting today, Kyle. You know, we've been talking on this show about how it's got all the signs of a 9/12, of a sequel to 9/11 that they're gearing up for. And the more people are aware of what happened on 9/11, or for that matter, again, the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the better off we're going to be, and the less chance they can get away with something going forward.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who've done a lot of work over the last 8 years, really, of activism and education and outreach, filmmaking, and all of that. And a lot of that focus has been on teaching people, informing people about the history of false flag operations and government sponsorship of false flag attacks, in order to advance an agenda. And that's happened, and now there are a lot more people aware of it, which means it's going to be more difficult for it to be pulled off again. You know, whoever's doing these things are going to be a lot more hesitant. Right.
And we don't have to agree on who's doing them. I mean, they are being done, and that is important. I've asked a lot of people on this show, you know, what was it for them that you know, finally brought it into view that 9/11 wasn't what they told us, you know, an inside job. I think minimally they sat back and watched it happen and pulled a few strings and then tried to cover it up. That's proven.
Yes.
And I asked what was it for you, and you ticked me off on this, Kyle, because what it was for me was I began learning about the history of false flag operations, and that, you know, I didn't know about Operations Northwoods. I didn't know about you know, the USS Liberty or the Lusitania, or I didn't know, you know, what happened to Ferdinand leading up into the World War, and some of this stuff you start to read it and digest it, and you're like, wow, I mean, they just do this all the time, and that opened my mind to look into more information.
Right, exactly. There's a pattern here. There's a modus operandi of the powers that be. It's how they manipulate things for their own ends. And, yeah, you put that together with all of the bits and pieces, the forensic evidence, and legitimate suspicions that, you know, people brought up early on, and you go, well, it looks like it happened again here with 9/11. For me, it was just a case of getting the creeps with everyone sort of waving the flag and willing to sort of give up their liberties, give up their, you know, Constitution, effectively, you know, wave the flag but trash the Constitution in order to, you know, get the illusion of some kind of safety from another attack, you know, and that got me uncomfortable. And then not long after that, I started reading about the suspicious market activity on Wall Street in 3 or 4 trading days, particularly right before the attack, including the Monday before the attack. And that just tipped me off. It was some people very high up where the rumors were floating around. There was awareness of it. Some people tried to exploit it and, you know, use the market to make some money because they knew it was coming.
Right. Well, and the same thing could be said, I think, with the recent oil spill in the Gulf by BP. By the way, another one today lit on fire. They're like Roman candles out there here over my shoulder in the Gulf of Mexico where I live. How hard? We got to go to break, but I want to get into this a little bit with you, Kyle Hentz. How hard was it in 2002 in Rhode Island? Because I can testify to this. How hard was it to talk about that our government could have been involved in 9/11 when there was this patriotic fever brewing everywhere. Let's get into that, and then also I want to get into the Obama kind of left-wing COINTELPRO being invigorated now by Cass Sunstein and others. They want to use 9/11 to get to everyone that might look at that information. Kyle Hentz is with us. We got one more segment with him. We'll be right back. Deadline Live. Well, I think Cousin Barry Obama is playing this song right now in the White House. It might be rolling across his teleprompter as we do this broadcast right here on the 9th day of the 9th month, 2010. Thanks for joining us. Deadline Live, JackBloodRentsRadio.com. Kyle Hentz with us. Well, Kyle, I played that song because there is breaking news to report. The Koran burning will not take place. The White House, the Pentagon, the FBI, and the CIA, and others, I think, went and made an offer that the pastor in Florida could not refuse. There will not be Koran burnings on 9/11, but I believe, and I'm trying to spark this fire on my own and with a little help from my friends. That's another good song. Burning the 9/11 omission report on 9/11. I think that's a good thing to do, right?
That should be done. It's too bad that something like that didn't spread like wildfire across this country. You know, it's just that could have gotten the attention of the media and maybe given us the boost we needed. You know, it's like every few months or every year, a few times, I was like, oh, well, this should do it. Some new revelation, some new whistleblower, some new, information coming out, and you think, well, geez, maybe this will catch fire, maybe someone will pay attention, and so many times being let down. It's been tough.
Let me go back to that question I asked you. Kyle Hentz is with us on the show today. Press for Truth, 9/11 Press for Truth, still one of the greatest 9/11 films. I love it because it gives all this background information. Everybody just jumps to the end of the story. You build the whole timeline. I know you use a lot of Paul Thompson's work there, and you build the timeline. You cover that whole Tora Bora escape extensively. There's so much great information in that. I still want people to go see it. And I guess, right, it's for free on the Internet, I would assume by now, right?
Well, a lot of people have seen it on Google Video. You can watch the whole thing. It's not, it's very small screen. It's not the same thing, of course. But you can also, if you're a Netflix member, you can request it on Netflix, or if you're Blockbuster Online, you can do the same. You can download it off of iTunes, high quality, the whole thing. So there's a lot of different ways you can get it. You can also just go to 911pressfortruth.com and order your own copy of the DVD.
Kyle, is there a Press for Truth 2 coming out, or there should be?
Yeah, we did In Their Own Words, which is available through our website. It's called In Their Own Words, which some people even like better than Press for Truth, because it's got a lot of the news clips we couldn't fit in the finished film. It's got some of the widows speaking further about their concerns and issues and questions in their own words. It's got a lot of stuff in it, and my mom really likes it, so there you go. But we, right now I'm just focusing on this special for next year and trying to get that done. And
well, Kyle, let me tell you this. I've got a little free time over the next year, so if you need me, I'm available.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to
All right,
know.
let's go back to the question I asked, because I want to put this into perspective. We've got a lot of people that listen to this show that they're on board, and I'm glad they're on board, but once it was a little easier, it was easier to be a patriot and easier to be on board. What was it like? Because I always tell my story, not lately, but I will again tomorrow. I'll go over a little more of that. But what was it like in 01, 02 to be a cynic, to be a doubter, when the whole world and this country was waving a flag and Bush had a 90-some% approval rating? And, even the punk rockers who hate the government were pro-Bush, pro-war, and pro-government. I mean, it was insane. What was it like? Give us kind of a synopsis of what it was like for you, and then when you saw it turn.
In a word, lonely, especially the first few months, because there was just a small community of us that started to find each other on the Internet, and we started just putting the pieces together, doing research, comparing notes, and it was daunting. I mean, really seriously daunting, and I was sitting back going, what is wrong with this country, that were willing to trash, just throw down, let go of the Constitution and look to the government to keep us safe. I mean, after what had happened. I mean, it was really, really hard. And I guess having like-minded people that were similarly motivated and willing to risk, put their reputation on the line and speak out really helped. And then when Colleen Rowley got around to releasing her memo, and then someone leaked the details of that August 6th memo that the PDB, the presidential
the FBI agent, that tried to warn the government that something was going to happen, among so many others. We just did a gig together out in Pennsylvania at Valley Forge, by the way, in Pennsylvania here a few months ago, which was great, and she was great. The mainstream media, ABC News, showed up from Nightline. They had no interest in interviewing her. But you're right. I mean, this stuff started to happen, and more people started to go, wait a second, maybe that lunatic Kyle Henson and Jack Blood, maybe they're not crazy and a terrorist after all. Maybe they've got something in.
Right, exactly. I mean, we were alone doing our own thing, just wondering why no one was paying attention, and then it was like those two stories broke, the Rowley memo to Mueller, the FBI director, and the presidential daily briefing details, and that was like the cue for us to go, okay, let's rally the forces, let's hold a press conference in Washington, D.C. at the preeminent press club, and get some of these families to come out and speak out, get some of these researchers to lay out what they've found, relative to the collapse of NORAD.
Kyle, you really can't stay for a few more minutes?
I can stay for maybe 5 or 10.
Call the other guy and stay for 8 more minutes. I'll negotiate with you. I just got a few more questions, and I want my listeners to know who you are if they don't. Kyle Henson's with us. We'll be right back, folks. Deadline Live, Jack Blood, rentsradio.com and affiliates. Stay tuned. Kyle Henson is with us on the show today, one of the first 9/11 truthers. He knows where the bodies are buried. He's been trying to tell the world, America. You would think he should have been the Glenn Beck, though it's a different political set of factoids. Kyle, thanks for staying with us. I know you got to go, so let me just go for a few more things. First of all, any website you want to plug, man, just throw it out there.
Any website I want to plug? Well, I think what they're doing in New York is great. It's called the whatbuilding.org campaign.
Yep.
That's a good one. And, I just encourage people to see this film, my film, and give it to their friends who haven't seen or thought about 9/11 in the way that we think about it. And just take risks. We're living in dangerous times and getting more dangerous and more polarized. And we've got to just take personal risks, put ourselves out there in ways we haven't done before.
I want to pick up on that comment here in just a second, but I also want to finish up the work we did in the last segment. I asked you how hard it was in 02 to 04, and it started breaking out in 04 and 05. The 5th year anniversary was great, and you're working for the 10th anniversary. We're looking forward to that. What is the difference now, if you could help us understand that? Because I got to think about that here heading into the 9th anniversary. What's the difference between, the hard work that we did and how it comes a little easier now? Obviously, there's much more cynicism, but there's also kind of an osmosis that I've been talking about on my show, that people just get it without even looking at the information. What does it all mean? Can you put that in a few paragraphs?
Well, I think we're seeing, change ripple across the world faster than ever. I mean, that's a given, and that's a good thing, because we need change, because business as usual is just not working. On the 9/11 front, I think, like we were talking in the first segment, all of our efforts to educate people about how we are manipulated, how events are fabricated, attacks are fabricated, blamed on others to advance nefarious agendas, that education has probably paid dividends that we may never know or understand. Maybe it made the forces and interest behind these sorts of events to pause, and maybe even not move forward with similar sort of things in the future or in the past. And so I think that's all very encouraging. I mean, I think that we're in a bit of a lull in terms of the so-called movement, and my hope is that, people redouble their efforts in the coming year and look ahead to the 10th anniversary, because if we don't crack the nut, if you will, and really expose it and reach critical mass this coming year ahead of the 10th or on the 10th, then we may never. And it may end up being just like the JFK thing and MLK. Well, the majority of people believe and suspect that it was a wider conspiracy, but then every.
But what difference does it make?
What difference does it make? Every anniversary comes, and the powers and the networks say the same old crap. So I hope
they know about it, yet they never do anything. And maybe we need to focus. I hope that's going to be the message going forward to the 10th year anniversary. It should be at the 9th anniversary here, or every anniversary. Every day is an anniversary. Every 11th of the month is an anniversary. And I just wish people would understand how serious a lot of this is without sacrificing the joys they have in their life to spend time with their family and their friends. And we're not asking for that kind of sacrifice. That's what the New World Order does. We don't. Okay, let me go to this. David Ray Griffin, who we think is going to be on the show with us tomorrow, a good friend of ours, has written a book called Cognitive Infiltration.
Okay. Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got to wrap up because I have to go catch a ferry.
Cognitive infiltration, real quick. Cass Sunstein, the Harvard Law professor appointed by Obama, they're going to infiltrate the 9/11 movement. I think they've been doing it for a long time. There's a left-wing 9/11 movement and a right-wing 9/11 movement. Any comment you want to give while you have time?
Well, yeah. I mean, what this is about is it doesn't matter who's in office. The folks that are vested in covering up the truth and fogging our minds and undermining our power and our ability to make a difference and educate each other, that's going to happen whether there's an Obama or a Bush or whoever in the office. And thank goodness whoever surfaced that paper has put it out there, because these people need to be called out. That's my comment.
Kyle Hance, thanks for joining us. Have a great anniversary. Please stay in touch with me, and we'll work with you for the 10th anniversary, because that's where we're at. Thank you, Kyle.
Pleasure. Always
Appreciate
a pleasure,
you being on.
Jack. Thank you so much.
You got it. And then this will be the third entry on Kyle Hance on the first page. See, that's how we do. Thanks for joining us, Kyle Hance. Well, we've got some time left.